entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
This is Vigilant Sports with Art Vigil and friends.
Rick, where'd you get a hand grenade?
Show me the money!
Hey, Cody, how are you doing?
Good, Art. Good. Excited to be on the pod. How are you?
I'm doing great. We met a couple of years ago, I want to say. I want to say a couple of years ago when I was developing during the pandemic, where I developed the TextMe.bet app, which is still out there, but I'm having some problems with Google Play Store of all places. Apple's just like, come on in, you can do whatever you want, but I just hired an attorney to get all that, all the private policies, all the things that they were requesting. But that's a whole different story.
Got it. Yeah, I've heard. The Google Store is a bit more strict when it comes to betting, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think you recently got a promotion. You're with XLMedia, correct?
Yes, I am. Thank you. And I did get a promotion. Yeah, so we're an online affiliate marketing company in the sports betting space. So we basically own a number of sports websites, and we partner with either a newspaper, digital newspaper, or other kind of regional sports publishers across the U.S. and Canada, and write sports betting content for them and monetize it through promoting the likes of DraftKings and FanDuel and Caesars, and I'm sure all the ones you see on TV anytime. I mean, I know football season's done, but there was definitely a pretty big ad blitz. So it's good. I've been there for a little over 2 years. I worked in finance previously, had my own sports betting podcast for a couple years, and now just work in the space full time.
Can you name some of the higher profiled websites?
Yeah, I mean, we own a couple of sports websites that are pretty well known throughout their specific region. So Crossing Broad in Philadelphia, Saturday Down South, which is the biggest SEC focused website. Sports Betting Dime is a big national brand focused on sports betting across the U.S. So those are just a couple of the websites we own at this point. Very
cool. How did you get into this space?
Yeah, so I basically, was working in finance for about 5 or 6 years. That was what my undergrad degree was in from Indiana University. And kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, I don't think I want to do this forever. What do I want to do? And didn't exactly know. So I ended up, my brother and I created our own, sports betting podcast and a blog originally as well. And called Full Slate, and used it, one, as a creative outlet, but two, as a way of meeting people within the industry. And that's ultimately how I ended up in my current role at XLMedia.
That's funny. That wasn't one of the reasons I started TextMe.bet and both Undefeated.live, but because I created something and kind of put it out there, a lot of people came to me talking about, betting apps and wanted me to talk on either their podcast or write for something. I'm like, it was a great way to open up some doors that I know if I just showed up on their doorstep and saying, hey, hi, I'm Art Vigil, they'd be like, so what are you doing here? What do you want?
Yeah, it's funny. It's, it's a good way to get your foot in the door, if you will. Absolutely.
And people will actually talk to you because you've created something. You're like, hey, you're the founder or the co-founder or whatever of this app. I'm like, yeah, let's chat. I'm like, all right, cool. Prior to that, they're like, oh, this guy's just trying to spam me and sell me something.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's like when I was looking for new jobs, it's like, I was one of many, a male sports fan working in finance, looking to transition out into something they're more interested in. So having the podcast and showing, hey, I've been, working on this, I created it, cracked. It was the top 150 sports podcasts at a point in time. So it was, you could really point to growing something and building something and putting yourself out there, which helps you stand out a little bit, at least above the fold.
Absolutely. Better than just a resume and a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So it's that time of year. It's March. There's either St. Patrick's Day, which everybody looks forward to. At least
Mm-hmm.
I can only speak. Maybe I'll just speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also this thing called March Madness.
Yes. How about that? It's personally, starting last week with conference tournament week through the first couple weekends of the tournament, I think our peak time in the sporting calendar. I love football, big baseball fan as well, but there's just something special about the nonstop college hoops. And as an IU grad myself, we actually play in a little bit here tonight in the playing game. Having them back in the mix is exciting. And as a bettor, it's heaven. I mean, there's so many games, and now, especially I live in New York, there are the legal sports books here, so there's a lot of options, and I'm just excited it's back. And, this is really the first year, too, that there are going to be fans at all the games, where last year they basically had the bubble in Indy. So I'm pumped that we're fully back in the swing of things here, Art. Have you already filled out a bracket, or
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah. I did a podcast with a buddy of mine who's I hate using the word guru because that's not the right word, but because it's such, played out word too. But he's been a basketball fan his whole life. He played in college, coached. And so we had a podcast yesterday and we were making our picks. We did the first round and then we picked who we thought was going to get to the Final Four and who we thought was going to win. Have you put one together yet?
Yes, I did. I did one last night. So I have a Final Four at this point of Gonzaga, Kentucky, Arizona, and my kind of sleeper pick, if you will, is Iowa, out of their region, out of the Midwest. And, that may be my Big Ten bias and the fact how good they just looked in the Big Ten tournament, and they have the shooters. But those are my four, and I have Arizona knocking off Kentucky, battle of Wildcats there in the final, and Arizona hanging the banner. I think from what I've seen of Arizona, they have a lot of length. They have good guard play. I know one of their guards is hurt, but I think he may come back. But I like what I saw out of them and just the athletes they have. And I think if they can get past, I think the way it works, if things are chalk to the Sweet 16, they have Illinois, which is a tough matchup, given their size, and Kofi Coburn and some of the senior guards they have on the outside with Illinois. I think if they could get past Illinois, I really like Arizona and their journey to the finals, if you will. So that's my pick. Where do you land right now, Art?
Well, I was just going to ask, how far do you think Indiana's going to get?
So if we get past tonight, I will say this, a little inside baseball. I do have Indiana to the Sweet 16 in my bracket. And so that would mean they would knock off St. Mary's. They would knock off UCLA, assuming UCLA beats Akron. And then I have them falling to Baylor. My pride can only take me so far against the defending national champions. But I don't know. I mean, Indiana, I don't want to spend too much time here talking about them, but we've lost a number of close games this year. I think the talent on the roster is better than a 12 seed. And we shall see. It's March, it's single elimination. And it's interesting because I think they've had these first four games, Art, for about 9 years. I think this is the 10th. And twice the first four team has actually made the Final Four. We saw it last year with UCLA. So, the 16 seeds in the playing game, those guys, we know they're kind of you kind of win and then you get a death sentence, if you will, for
right.
Seed. But for IU, Wyoming, Rutgers, and Notre Dame, those teams, you actually do kind of get the chance to get in a groove a little bit, get hot, play one game, get rid of some of the nerves that come with conference or March Madness. So we'll see. Do I think Indiana's going to make the Final Four? Probably not. But I'd be over the moon if they could at least win tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait to watch that game. I have in my Final Four Arizona as well and Tennessee. There's something about Tennessee and what they did to who they beat in the.
They look good. They look good in the.
They beat Auburn, I believe. Yeah, they beat Auburn.
Yeah, they beat Kentucky too.
They did, yes. So Tennessee's my sleeper, although I think they're third or fourth ranked, so it's not really a sleeper. But Villanova's in there, and Villanova, for some reason, always comes to play. And then I have Kansas and USC, and that could be a bias on the West Coast I saw them play UCLA earlier in the year, and I just thought they played very well. They lost, but I thought they competed, and they looked really good to me.
I was just talking to my brother, and he's like, I kind of like USC to make the Final Four, and I was like, what do you know about USC? I mean, they were good last year, right? But you lost Evan Mobley, the best player. But I mean, I guess you have the everyone else that's still there. Well, did they make the Final Four last year? Did I speak out of turn? But you definitely went on a run.
I believe, yeah, no, they did, because they lost to Gonzaga with the last second almost half court 3-pointer at the end of the game. Suggs, if I remember straight. Remember, he threw it up and then he jumped on the table.
That was UCLA, but I think
UCLA that's right.
beat USC.
Yes, that sounds right. Last year. Sorry, I thought I heard UCLA. My bad.
Yeah, sorry. So they lost in the Elite Eight last year, USC to Gonzaga. So we're all over the place with our West Coast teams here, but they did go on a run last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All righty, then let's see. I have Gonzaga and Texas Tech in the West.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think about Gonzaga? They've flirted with winning it all a couple times, but they can't seem to get over the hump.
I think last year, and there are a lot of players. I think Suggs was the only one that went to the pros. There were a lot of returning players. And, of course, they got the 7-footer Chet Holmgren, I think his name is.
Yeah, Holmgren.
And obviously he's going to be a top 3-4 player. Hopefully he doesn't. He reminds me of Bradley back in the day. I don't remember if you know who that is, but he was a tall 7'1". I think he went to BYU way back in the day, probably late 90s. But anyway.
Sean Bradley?
Sean Bradley, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Chet Holmgren's he's definitely a beanpole, but he can shoot. He
can, yeah. I'm talking about body frame, not actual game. Just the way he looks. When I first looked at him, I was like, oh, I know, I've seen that look before. But then Bradley couldn't hit threes and couldn't dribble down and pass and all that other stuff. He was back then. They played a whole different game. So I think the best thing that happened is Baylor went in and just beat them up in the finals. So, and a lot of guys are coming back and they have that experience of playing against that type of defense. And I think that's actually my pick to win. I know it's kind of easier than the number one pick, but I think this is the year they get over the hump, basically.
All right. So you like the Vegas favorite then? Because I was just looking at DraftKings, their futures odds, and they have Gonzaga as the favorite as plus, I think it was like plus 360. Let me pull it up here. But that's what everyone likes. I was looking at Ken Palm's, the basketball analytics guy, his rankings. He has Gonzaga at 1. And the thing is, I think they're actually, for the number 1 overall seed, I think their bracket's pretty tough. Arkansas has had success in the tournament recently.
That is true.
UConn's UConn. They're the 5. They're always good for a run every, handful of years in March. And then Duke is a 2 seed, and it's Coach K's last year. They lost to UNC the last home game at Cameron. They just really got the doors blown off versus Virginia Tech in the ACC title game. But at the end of the day, they got Paolo, Bonchero. Those 2 teams met earlier in the season, and Duke handled them pretty easily. And I remember I bet on Gonzaga that game. Didn't end well. So I may end up changing my pick to Duke the more I think about it. Duke apparently has up to at least they have 4 guys that are set to be first-round NBA draft picks. Potentially there's a 5th out there. And that whole Coach K element, is he really going to go out without some kind of run? I would love him not to, as someone who doesn't love Duke, but I don't know. I feel like they're set up for a run here. Yeah. Duke, I have them losing to Texas Tech, but I don't know. It's I like the Christian Laettner Duke teams back in the day, but the latest Duke teams I haven't been a big fan of. Although you got to respect Coach K, but their team has basically taken a crap if you want to call it what it is in the big games to support Coach K. So it would be a great run for him to win.
that would be, walking off into the sunset type of thing. But we'll see. We'll see. So the two I have in the finals are Gonzaga and Tennessee.
Okay, so you got the SEC. I think Tennessee. I mean, they look great in the SEC tournament. I know a lot of people were a little upset by their seating on the 3 line and felt they deserved better. Yeah, I mean, I think for them, it's if they meet up with Villanova, Jay Wright, he's obviously had so much success here in March recently. That would be an awesome matchup. And, in the final versus an Arizona of that region, I think ultimately Arizona's size is probably a little too much for Tennessee. But again, what do I know? So anyone can win this thing.
Yeah, especially, I mean, that's kind of proved all year. They had 8 number ones or 10 number ones all throughout the year.
Yeah,
every
exactly.
time.
It's been chaotic. Tennessee's 16-1 to win it all.
That's not bad.
Yeah, and I mean, even to make the Final Four, right? So if you think they're gonna get there, they're plus 330. So you bet 100, win 330. So not bad odds there.
Yeah, I like that. I might have to use an app that I can use in California, since we do not have the ability to make bets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, I know we only have a few more minutes. We're free agent. Who's your favorite team in the NFL?
I'm a 49er fan, so I know you're a West Coast guy. I live on the East Coast, but I'm a Niners fan. So they've been quiet so far in free agency, but I think we'll probably get a Jimmy G trade here in the next, week, I imagine.
Where do you think he's going? The Colts?
Yeah, I think the Colts or the Saints, like whatever teams, I think teams are now trying to go after Deshaun Watson after, it seems like he'll be able to play next year. Whichever those teams end up losing the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, I think will probably come to the Niners for Jimmy G. But yeah, I mean, I was thrilled last week when Russell Wilson got traded. That's been flirted with a little bit, that he was unhappy there. And he's been a thorn in my side as a 49er fan for literally as long as he's been on that team. So
yes,
to get him out of the division is great news. And I mean, now the AFC West has just a murderer's row of those quarterbacks where, you have Wilson, Herbert, and Mahomes. And, Derek Carr's pretty solid too. He doesn't get a ton of respect, but he's pretty good.
Well, he's played for the Raiders his whole career, so that's why he hasn't got a lot of respect. And he's the 4th best quarterback in that division, which is just says a lot, right? Because he is an all-pro quarterback. If I were him, because I think his contract's up next year, I would be like, hey, get me to the NFC. I'll play for the Panthers, because there's only 3 good quarterbacks over there. There's Rodgers, Stafford, and now Brady. Before that, there was only 2. I mean, who's the 4th? Cousins? Dak?
Soon to be Trey Lance, maybe. Who knows?
That sounds like wishful thinking. Just so you know, yes, I'm a West Coast guy, but I'm not a Niner fan.
Yeah,
although I'm a Miami Dolphin fan. Which,
okay, got it.
Which has a lot of different discussions and pain points that I don't want to go over.
Yeah.
But I think we've done pretty good in the free agent so far. I still think we need another.
And you got Shanahan's right hand man, McDaniel, who's supposed to be good.
Yeah, we'll see. Right now he seems really too cool for school. He kind of walks around like he's Mr. Big Shot. So I really hope. And he's my coach. I'm going to support him. But he better come with it, because we need it. We've been bad for so long.
You need someone to maximize too. So I mean, I think he should be a good offensive mind for that.
And we picked up Teddy Bridgewater as a backup, which I think is a really good backup, because Tua won't play every game. He's going to get hurt. That's just who he is. And unfortunately, well, the Dolphins had a really bad offensive line for the last 2 years. But even when he played for Bama, he got hurt. So I think him being our backup, when he was with the Saints, when Breeze went down, what did he do? He won 5 games. Right. So I'm good with that. And we got a Chase Edmonds, the running back from the Cardinals, Cedric Wilson Jr. from the Cowboys as a wide receiver. So I think we'll be all right. I still think we need offensive lineman. And then during the draft, I say we probably get another offensive lineman, a wide receiver, a linebacker, and then go for depth. That's what I think we should do. But hey, I'm not in the front office.
Yeah,
not in the front office at all.
not yet.
Who? Yeah, exactly. Who are you surprised from a free agent standpoint besides Russell Wilson? Because there was a lot of rumors. I didn't think they would trade. I mean, the Seahawks don't even have a quarterback at this point. I mean, Drew Lock, I liked him coming out of. I think he came out of Missouri.
He did.
His release remind me a little bit of Dan Marino, of how it just kind of real short and just kind of it seems like it pops. But he's played there 3 years and not consistent. Granted, he went into the Denver, who had a defensive coordinator or defensive head coach, not a very good offensive coordinator. So hopefully Hackett, who's the new head coach from Green Bay, whose dad played or coached for the Niners and a bunch of other teams. Hopefully they can. Oh, that's right. He's gone. He's going to another head coach that's a defensive coordinator, isn't he? I don't know. He's going to Pete Carroll. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh man, poor guy. Who's still available? It's got to be. I'm trying to think who's available.
Yeah,
Devontae Adams. He's going to probably.
He'll go back. He'll go back to the Packers. In terms of moves that have happened, including trades and free agency, I mean, I think Broncos at this point are the winners of the offseason. I think they have always kind of had really solid foundation of role players the last, say, 3-5 years, but they could never hit on the quarterback position. Now that they have Wilson, they signed a guy that was on the 49ers, DJ Jones.
That was a good one.
Solid D lineman. They got Randy Gregory to leave Dallas to join them as well. So I think they're going to be a really good team. You know, I wouldn't put them ahead of the Chiefs and probably not even the Chargers. I think Herbert, just his ceiling is so high, but I think they're in a good position to make a playoff run next year. And then other ones here. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the way things are shaking out with Brady coming back out of his 39-day retirement,
right?
You hit on it. The NFC is pretty wide open, whereas the AFC, you have a murderer's row of young quarterbacks, and that feels like, you know, that conference is going to emulate what we saw, you know, in kind of the earlier 2000s between Brady and Manning, kind of trading blows at the top of the conference for over a decade. With Mahomes and Allen, and you have Herbert and Lamar and all these guys. And Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah, can't forget Burrow.
And the guy who made the Super Bowl. So, the NFC is wide open, which I think is partially why Brady's coming back. Because similar to Rodgers, he ended up getting his big payday, and I think he probably looked around and was like, "What am I going to get traded to Denver the way Russell Wilson did?" And then you're in that crazy tough division and the conference in general. So, feels like it's kind of a 4-team race at this point in the NFC between the Rams, the Niners, the Bucks, and the Packers. You have a pretty good sense there. Whereas the AFC, I think you could basically throw 8 teams against the wall, and any one of them could come out of that conference next year.
No, I agree 100%. How bad must Jordan Love be?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's like how good Aaron Rodgers is, and like in a weird way, Rodgers was kind of starting to come back to earth a little bit before they drafted him, and in a weird way, they obviously wasted the first round pick on Love because he hasn't seen the field. But if you get that much more out of Rodgers with like the level of play he's been at the last few years, winning a couple MVPs, actually it may have been worth it to get that. Put that chip on his shoulder, if you will.
That extra boost or burst to get him a little fire underneath him.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know we're going to get off the podcast in a little bit. Just let's see, a couple more questions if you still have time.
Yeah, sure.
You're a Niner fan, right? Do you still think Trey Lance is the man?
Yeah, I mean, he started what, I think 3 games. Like we barely even saw him out there. We gave up a lot to get him, of course.
To the Dolphins, 3 first rounds.
Yeah, true. Congrats.
We gave one back.
Yeah,
to the Eagles, but
yeah. But I think to answer your question, I think Lance is incredibly raw, but has a lot of the tools that you see in today's ideal quarterback, i.e., a Mahomes and Allen, even on a lesser front like a Herbert, Kyler Murray, if you will, where he has the big arm. He can throw the flashy long ball, the 60-yard pass. He throws darts over the middle of the field. He's done it a few times, and in the few glimpses he's played in the past year. And he can run. He's mobile. And Shanahan really hasn't had access to a mobile quarterback since RG3's rookie year. And RG3 had a rash of injuries. But if they can keep Lance healthy, which was an issue they ran into earlier this year, I think he's got all the tools around him to be really successful, right? You have a George Kittle. They always have a solid running game. You have Deebo Samuel on the outside, Brandon Ayuk. I think they'll do even more to shore up the offensive line this offseason. They have Trent Williams, who's all pro left tackle. It's about as an ideal of a situation as you can come into for a young quarterback. And the bottom line is he's just going to have to get reps. He played at a lower level. He wasn't in the Alabamas of the world or even playing at a Big Ten level, right? Comes from a smaller school,
right?
And 2 years ago they had their basically most of their season canceled with COVID. So he's just going to have to get some reps in, but I think he's going to be good with Shanahan and the weapons he has around him. Because at the end of the day, these quarterbacks are just products of their system for the most part, right? Every now and again, you could get a Joe Burrow that elevates everyone, but it's pretty few and far between if you kind of think about it over the course of NFL history.
Yeah, I mean, Shanahan won with Nick Mullins. So not that Nick Mullins, if you're listening, I'm not saying you're a bad quarterback. I'm just saying you won with Mullins, and what was the other guy from Ohio? No, Iowa.
CJ Beathard. Yeah.
That's right, Beathard. Right, exactly. So if you can win with them, I think Trey Lance should do fine. One of my buddies calls him Bay Area Lance. No, not Bay
Area.
Yeah, something like that. Trey Lance, Bay Lance. I think it's like Bay Lance or something like that.
Probably there's a lot of Trey area on 49.
Yes, that's it. Trey area. That's what it is. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So do you follow a lot of people on Twitter or for the Niner News or?
Yeah, absolutely. Twitter is kind of my go-to way of getting, be it sports, news, any kind of updates. It's all Twitter.
Perfect. Well, hey, Cody, I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. Do you have anything else you want to promote?
No, all good, man. All good. I appreciate you having me on and the time, and hopefully, we have some winners this March Madness, and hope you enjoy the tournament. We will talk soon.
All right. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
All I see is money, 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 money. Yeah. All I see is money, money.